In January, I think it was, we reported that NRW had advised us that our dewatering permits were in process, that we'd be advised on updates about their progress in due course. Well, a few weeks ago, we did have some feedback, a handful of comments and questions relating to protected species on that side of things rather than on the watering side of things, as in the dewatering permits themselves. So issues to do with noise mitigation, biosecurity, duration of the proposed exclusion measures for bats. We're working through those comments and compiling some more baseline data in relation to noise in the next week or 10 days. We'll then submit that information with a view to closing off those final queries, what we hope are the final queries, and seeking a final decision and the grant of the permits. Obviously, we're very keen, extremely keen to get into the dewatering exercise as soon as possible. It has been a very long-running saga now, and we're entering spring, so we do want to crack on with that work. So that's a little update on that. Well, we've just heard that the Civil Aviation Authority have advised they're targeting an approval date in the second half of April for the proposed airspace change. After that, it'll be for our consultants, our contractors, UAVE, to submit a variation to the CAA operational authorization. That'll enable us to operate the flights within a newly created temporary danger area. That's what it's called. And that should have taken about 30 days. So that would provide a window for us to fly the surveys between June and August. So that's the latest. It's a little bit later than we anticipated even most recently, but we are in the hands of the regulators, I'm afraid, on that. It's a very prescriptive process that we don't control, unfortunately. Well, a rotary drone still requires line of sight, so it creates its own complications. So we would have needed landowner access for the drone operator to operate and walk through the necessary parts of the survey area to continue operating that drone with a line of sight at all times. So we had no guarantees we were going to get the permits or consents of those landowners, and we could have ended up with a real patchwork quilt of survey area, not covering the entire target area that we wanted to. So that was not optimal. The good thing about the fixed wing approach is that it needs the permission of one regulator, one authority, the CAA. It is a long-winded process, I admit that, but it is at least the case that once you have it, you have certainty, and then you can fly your entire survey area over the target that you have identified without having to miss out segments of that survey area. So that's why we decided to go that way, and we think it's the right approach. You've asked if the exploitation of the waste tip is still a priority for Alba, and it definitely is. Look, our original plan was to run the waste tip exercise in parallel with the dewatering exercise, but we've faced some issues, haven't we, in getting the dewatering permits through, and certainly on a timely basis, and that's caused us to have a rethink about timing overall. Dewatering and accessing the lower elect freight remains our number one target. That takes precedence over every other planned activity we have at Clogau. So given how close we think we are now to a final decision on dewatering, we really don't want to introduce a separate permitting track on the waste tip, which could cause a delay or complications in getting the permitting for the lower elect freight. Not least as we're talking about the same regulator looking at both schemes. So that's the priority for us. The focus has to be get the dewatering exercise back on track, get the permits. Once we've done that, and also once we've been through the habitat regulations assessment, the HRA with NRW for the whole mine, which is part of the current permitting process, then we're going to push forward with waste tip permitting. Having that overarching HRA in place should help us with the waste tip exercise permitting, and also indeed with all future works that we want to do at Clogau. So important we have that framework in place. We are definitely doing work. I mean, the drone survey, the geophysical survey is covering some of the Gwynfynydd key targets. So yes, that's on our Gwynfynydd license. So that's a definite priority for this year. In terms of the mine itself, and we've said this before, Clogau is the priority. Once Clogau is fully on track, we're going to look to increase our work activities in relation to the Gwynfynydd mine. So, that just is the reality of the situation. Well, we were unable to access the land we wanted to drill from, and it's as simple as that, really. If you can't get landowner access, there's nowhere to go, really. There's no mechanism for overruling any decision. It's a landowner's land, and it's their right to say yay or nay. So, unfortunately, that would have meant that we could have stepped out further. Would have meant drilling longer holes. No guarantee of getting consent from those landowners either, and so it was really not considered to be viable or economic to carry on. We were left with no choice really but to relinquish the license. It's never been a high priority for us, but it's a shame that we weren't able to drill some of those targets. Well, we understand and has been reported the operator has received permits for water re-injection at the HH2Z well, and that's going to help enhance profitability of operations at Horse Hill because you won't need to dispose of water off site with third-party companies, so which comes at a big cost. So that will definitely help profitability. I understand they're doing baseline tests at the moment on water reinjection prior to starting actual operations. In terms more generally about Horse Hill, that we remain hopeful that either UCOG or indeed another incoming party will decide to drill another vertical Portland producer at Horse Hill. The fundamentals of the project haven't changed, so we are still hopeful that that will come to pass. It surprised you to hear that I think that they've gone phenomenally well for GreenRoc since the IPO. Last year was very successful, in particular, of course, at Amitsok, where we've now got, following a fantastic drilling program, we've now got a big resource, and our grade, far from suffering, which you often get when you drill further into a project, has actually gone up. And now we are one of, I think, only 2 graphite projects in the world with average resource grades of more than 20%, and that's been confirmed now from the 2 rounds of drilling. On top of that, we've done further ongoing metallurgical processing test work, and that continues to demonstrate our ability to produce high purity spherical graphite from Amitsok, and that's what's the demand growth that's growing exponentially from the electric vehicle sector. That's where we want to be, and our graphite is in pole position to supply some of that demand. What else about GreenRoc? Well, corporately, done a lot of work in progressing discussions and our thoughts on an appropriate strategic partners for the project. We announced an MOU with LNS, which is a major Norwegian mining and construction group. They've got a track record for building and operating mines, in fact, in Greenland, so they potentially a very good partner for us. We also announced an official letter of support from the European Raw Materials Alliance, or ERMA, in which they quoted themselves, their opinion, that Amitsok is a deposit of global importance, which we obviously wouldn't disagree with them, but it is very important to get that seal of approval, that stamp from a third party that isn't involved with us directly. So that's fantastic, and it will, we hope, open several doors for us in the coming months as we continue those discussions with strategic partners, potential strategic partners, whether they're financial or technical, and of course that will include the OEMs or the car manufacturers with whom we've had initial discussions with, certainly with a lot of them. The market's been really tough for juniors, I think, over the last 12 months. I think the AIM market overall is down 40% in 2022. Despite the FTSE 100 being up, the AIM market is down. A lot of that is because it's pre-revenue, and obviously FTSE 100 is revenue, and oil companies have contributed a lot to that of late. And our share prices have reflected that, I'm afraid, and come under some pressure generally. So look, we consider always whether Alba should participate in a GreenRoc fundraising. We did that in the last 2 rounds, but it would have meant raising a lot more money in Alba to put that into GreenRoc, which would have meant, again, raising money at significant discounts to our trading price, and that just wasn't considered to be prudent or viable. So reluctantly, we had to pass on both those recent raises, but that doesn't affect our belief in GreenRoc. We think it's an extremely strong investment proposition with the biggest shareholder by far in the company, and if market sentiment improves, as it must at some point in the near future, then we'd seriously look at participating in future funding rounds for GreenRoc to maintain our stake or even potentially increase it. So that is still our intention. Look, we continue to promote the activities that we do or are involved with, just as we always have. But of late, it is true that focus has been on AMITSOC. So, that's where a lot of the focus on promotion from us and from GreenRoc has come. And it is obvious that the promotion of activities at Clogau has been hampered by these challenges and delays in permitting that I've spoken about earlier. But as soon as we can get moving again at Clogau, then you can rest assured that we will be pushing out a lot of PR project updates, and our focus will be very much on that as well as on all the technical work. So it is just, I'm afraid, the nature of the beast that we promote the things that we're actually working on. There's no real point to promoting things that we are waiting on. But that's really the reality of it. Is focusing on Alba. He's also heavily involved with GreenRoc, as are we at Alba. It's a very important part of our portfolio. It's important to our shareholders. It's important for a value proposition for Alba. So it's very important that Mark is across all the GreenRoc work. He is, he's been closely involved, as we all have, in its strategy and the rollout of the exploration and development programs. Look, we used to own the GreenRoc assets. We created GreenRoc. We're still its major shareholder. And Mark and I sit on the GreenRoc board, with myself as chairman, of course. So, we are heavily invested in that company and its success. It is absolutely right, therefore, that our COO is also heavily involved in project and technical operational decisions and just the progress of those things. Mark and our geological team at Alba played a pivotal role in drilling last year at AMITSOC. As I say, we benefit from GreenRoc's success, so it's in our interest to help it be a massive success. We don't suffer from that either. It was agreed as part of the IPO that there would be a services agreement between Alba and GreenRoc so that we could provide project management and other technical services. So we essentially get those services to the extent we give them to GreenRoc, we charge them out. So it's a win-win for us. It's a win-win for GreenRoc. And it means that our fixed resources, as in our personnel, gets effectively deployed and fully utilized at all times between both companies. So there are no there's no wasted costs in that respect. So I think it works really well. It's a fair question, but of course we don't think it's a likely outcome at all. We remain confident in getting those permits to start dewatering. It is a matter of time. We have thrown a huge amount of resource, expertise at it. It has taken too long. We all appreciate that, and we're all frustrated by that. But it is, we hope, very close to the end in a good way. So, once we're through the HRA process, that's going to give us and them an overall framework, as I've said, for the project, and that should make future permitting easier to obtain. But if I just humour the actual question, what happens if we don't ever get another permit at Clogau ever again? Where does it leave Alba? Well, Alba has a huge stake in a world-class asset. We've talked about it, Amitsoq. We've got significant investment in a producing oil field at Horse Hill. We have lots of other targets, of course, in the Dolgellau Gold Belt. But in addition, we are actively looking for a new project, and we have been reviewing some really exciting opportunities of late. There is nothing to announce, of course, otherwise we would have done so. But we continue to work really hard on looking for a new project. Now, that doesn't mean that it affects our view or positivity about Clogau at all. You know, we're in Clogau for the long haul. We remain determined to get it back into commercial production. But a new project will just take some of the heat off Clogau, I think. It'll enable us to work on a new front, a new exciting front, while at the same time, you know, pushing things forward in North Wales, perhaps a little bit more quietly than we've been able to do, where all the focus has been about that one project. So, as I say, nothing to report yet, but we are working on some really interesting prospects, and as soon as they come off, then of course you'll be the first to know. So look, that's hopefully provide a bit of an update, and we'll try and do that a bit more often. Appreciate that people have got a lot of questions, and we don't always have the answers, but we'll try to update you as best as we can, and hope for some good news in the very near future on Clogau. Thanks, everyone.